This one is going to be a little bit somber, but I promise you, the next 20 minutes are worth your time and, in fact, may change the way you look at your life. In 2021, I interviewed Sarah Sexton, an amazing lady who suffered from cystic fibrosis, had a lung transplant, had other conditions, but yet was still a wife and a mother. It would not be accurate to say her life was dominated by this chronic, debilitating diseases that she endured. But the reality of the fear, the pain, and the suffering that she endured informed her view of life and the world. I'm sad to report that she has in fact passed away. It was a great interview that I had with her, getting just under 2K views combined on both platforms. And I'll put the full interview hyperlinks in the chat. But I thought it appropriate to put out an edit to the highlights of her interview. Now, even if you saw the original interview, and many of you watching this will have, I implore you to watch this, especially now because she has departed this earth. It has a special poignance, and she kind of predicted a lot of things that were going to happen. Now, I have to declare that Sarah wasn't just a guest. We were friends, and friends of the family, and my son played soccer with Jackson, their boy. Frankly, my wife and I will miss Sarah. And of course, our hearts go out to Blake and the family who, needless to say, are feeling much more pain than we are. Please know that you're in our prayers, and I'll say the rosary, the prayer to Our Lady, for the repose of the soul of this magnificent lady. I commend this interview to you. As I said, it's especially poignant now, considering that Sarah was aware of her mortality, that she was to be on this world for but a short time, openly knew and discussed that. This gave her a unique perspective, and I genuinely think from the bottom of my heart, it's a very, very valuable and insightful one. Now, with the edit, I've started off with the deep and meaningful stuff that we actually went to towards the end of the interview, where she discusses whether or not being and her life are all worth it, the nature of her relationship with mortality, and how that impacted on the world. That's the first 8 minutes. But then I'll go back to the second part and we go to the nature of her condition so you can put things in perspective, what it meant for her and how it impacted her physically. I even left the introduction in. I think that kind of sums it up. So you'll see the introduction halfway through. It's a bit strange, but it is worth it. And like I said, it's an actual decision to leave it in. It's not a mistake. So that edit is about 11 minutes. So this entire podcast will go for about 20 minutes. Look, invest the time. I assure you it's worth it. And of course, make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you comment. Thank you very much. And without further ado from me, here is the interview with Sarah. Knowing everything that you know, would you, in hindsight, stop yourself from existing?
No, I, believe it or not, don't feel like I've had it that bad, considering I've seen some of my friends die at a very, very young age. Even just to make it where I have to work to raise a child, help to raise a child, get married. I mean, I've done everything everyone's meant to do. So, yeah.
My argument is, and I suppose I'm just going to have to state a claim and just ask for a comment. And you don't have to validate. Like, I'm not seeking validation here. I'm just seeking a discussion. I still think it's all worth it.
I definitely do too. And especially with the way CF's come now, there's tablets
everything
where
that you know,
certain strains of CF, they can pretty much cure it now. So it's only a matter of time. It won't be too long.
Okay, can we delve into this deeper, even going back into time without that? Would it still be worth it?
Yep. Like I said before, the first hospital trip I had when I was 3, I remember it. And some of the best times of my childhood were in hospital.
I mean, honestly, that is, I'm sorry, I want you to hold your train of thought, I really do. But that's amazing. It's like, so out of this incredible suffering and this incredible pain comes this incredibly beautiful. Do you have any friends left from then too that you're still in contact with?
Yes, not as many as I would like to have. And that's not from us falling out, that's from them passing away. But yes, I still am close to a lot of them who are alive. We have a weird friendship. It's like I don't
Well,
know. It's a connection that you
I
can't
gotta be,
explain.
look, I love clubs, but that's one club I'm not going to want to be in.
Yeah,
And
no.
you don't want to be in that club. Gratitude's a real theme of your blog. Can we talk about gratitude?
Yep. So my mum has watched me suffer a lot during my whole life, and I'm pretty sure she's suffered a lot more than I have just through watching me. As a parent, you can probably understand that. I think a lot of it was harder than on her than it was on me. And just for her to see me normal, I mean, I say that very freely, that word,
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
As normal as I can
There's
be
so many
anyway.
different levels. So
I know, yes. Um, but I mean, she's just never expected this. And I mean, from them going through a tragedy in my donor family to this, it's just, like I've said, you just can't explain it. I do not, I'm pretty good with words. I don't know what I'd say to them. How do you say thank you? Just a genuine thank you. I just don't know. I just try and do everything I possibly can to keep my lungs good and live the life that their loved one would have wanted to, I guess.
and fundamentally, really, and this didn't occur to me until this moment, actually, that's actually the theme of the movie Saving Private Ryan, because, this chap gets all these other people to sacrifice, who have to sacrifice themselves for him.
Mm.
And he wonders if he's lived a good life. That's an incredible burden, because one of the themes of that movie, and I would imagine one of the themes of your life, is that while it's a blessing, and you get down on your knees every day. Well, for me, I would be thanking God. I don't know who you're thanking, but uh, the burden of knowing that you're kind of vicariously living someone else's life, and uh, someone else's pain and suffering, well, that would just put a completely different perspective on.
Hmm. It definitely does. And I have written to my donor family. I write to them every year around the time, and I haven't heard back, but that's okay because I get that it is hard on them that time of the year. Um, yeah, I've heard
And
many,
you get
many
down on
different
your
stories about donor families too. How one lady who did connect with her daughter's heart transplant recipient, and they became very good friends, and then that lady died as well, and she said it felt like losing her daughter all over again. So I do understand why they don't want to connect with us sometimes, but yeah, it would be nice to know.
yeah. And again, like, the gratitude and the beautiful, the way you've articulated, like, it's breathing borrowed air, and we're all doing that. And like, as much as this is deep and it's kind of like sad, but it reminds us, like, memento mori, like, it reminds of our mortality. And clearly, if I can make this observation, and if you disagree, that's fine. But looking at your life and the things that you've achieved, uh, and by that I mean, like, because we always talk about achievement like it's this, oh, you need to be, in politics, or this great,
No one just wants to be average.
dude. If you have, like, if you're a mother, and, like, and you are, and you're, if you're these really simple things, like, you've ticked these basic boxes in life, and you're creating wealth, and you're employing people, and you're loving someone, and you're being loved, like, what else is there?
I don't feel as much more, but everyone wants more than what they've got. No matter what you've got, you always want more. So
Funny how really good things come out of really bad things, and suffering. Maybe we should actually be. Do you have gratitude for your suffering? The actual.
um, it's funny. Blake and I were just talking about this last night. And he was saying sometimes I can be a little bit cold with him, and because I've seen so much bad stuff happen. When him and Jackson injure their toe or get a blister or something, I'm just like, you'll survive. And Jackson has to be pretty much vomiting or his head exploding for me to let him have a day off school, and he absolutely hates that. But
So this is not the only health issue that you've had.
no.
We're discussing some of those.
So after the transplant is when it all started, really, and that was thanks to mostly medication. So I was instantly diagnosed with diabetes after, which was steroid-related diabetes, which is a different kind. It's not type 1 or type 2. Then my kidneys failed, and I was diagnosed with my second genetic disease, which is, it has a really long name, so I'm just going to call it AHUS, but that stands for a massive big name that I can't even say. And it's something about the way the blood flows into your kidneys, clotting, something like that. And then my liver failed. So I have psoriasis, I think they call it, which is pretty much a drinker's liver when I don't drink. I mean, I did when I was a bit younger, but not to the excess where my liver would have failed. That's thanks to the medication as well. Then 2017, I got bowel cancer, and I had to get a chunk of my bowel cut out. I think that's it. Sometimes there's a lot. I forget sometimes, but I think that's it.
Every now and then I get this feeling that I'm just not supposed to be here. And look, I don't want to get too psychological here, but there are some reasons for that. But dude, like, you're just not supposed to be here.
I'm invincible. Jackson calls me the Hulk. I can't die.
Well, it turns out that's not true, unfortunately. But so that's the first part of the interview, and I'm going to play the next 11 or so minutes, which go deeper into her conditions. And by the way, she missed some stuff there too. There was lots of, and she does mention all that stuff later. Like she's anyway, she says it. I'll play it. Thank you so much for the comments and the love that I'm getting so far too, by the way. It's fantastic to see you all.
Want to gain perspective? Hear from someone who, in a positive way, will cause you to remember your own mortality, who channels an understanding that we all need. One that she is living on borrowed time, but doing so in a really positive way. Well, if you're interested in that perspective, this episode is for you. Now, it sounds cheerless, but I promise you this interview will actually optimize your optimism, and that's what I've titled it. Now, if we've never met, I'm Matt Maloney, host and founder of Northern Vibe. We're about sharing stories. This is where curiosity is cultivated. This is where discussions are held with interesting, informed people. And I've got to say, I am thrilled to have Sarah Sexton, whose blog, Breathing Borrowed Air, is a cyber beacon of hope on Facebook. About Sarah, she's a cystic fibrosis survivor. She's a wife, a mother, a lung transplant recipient. She's a blogger, but ladies and gentlemen, she is not a hugger. Sarah, thank you very much for coming on.
It's okay, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, I assure you, it's my pleasure. I've really been looking forward to this one, actually. Look, I know your excellent stepson, Jackson, is quite a handy soccer player, but could you tell us about your family circumstances?
I married my husband 4 years ago. It was 4 years in October. We've been together 7 years, and he's got an 11-year-old son who keeps me on my toes, keeps me very busy. Sure you're aware of what they're like. And keeps me active. Yeah. And we live at home with 3 dogs and a cat.
Cystic fibrosis, we've all heard of the disease. Mm-hmm. But can you tell us what it is?
So CF affects on average 1 in 2,500 people in Australia. It's a genetic lung disease, but going on from the lungs, you do have many more issues like the digestive system and other stuff like that. It's a pretty horrible disease that eventually your lungs just pretty much just give up on you. And I had a lot of scar tissue on mine. So yeah, that's from a young age that happens. And a lot of people are also carriers, which they don't know about as well. So 1 in 25 people are actually CF carriers.
Okay, how old were you when you diagnosed?
6 weeks old. I wasn't thriving to live. My mum was a first-time mum, and she kept taking me back to the doctor saying, this kid screams a lot. And they were all saying, you're a first-time mum, that's what kids do. Mum was like, they don't scream like this. And at 6 weeks old, they did a heel prick test on me, and it was confirmed I had cystic fibrosis. And Mum was put on a plane and flown to Brisbane. This is back before the days of computers and Google. So she was handed a couple of brochures and told, this is what your daughter has, and jet set it off to Brisbane for the next 6 weeks of her life to find out what to do with me.
Oh my God, what an upheaval. Look, what's your earliest memory of being aware of what that truly meant?
My first actual hospital admission when I was 3 years old, I vaguely remember bits of it, surprisingly, mainly making friends. One of the older girls took me under her wing. She was 6 at the time and taught me how to colour in and do stuff like that. So it was actually good memories, but I don't remember the needles and the horrible parts of that visit, but yeah, I do remember the good stuff. First operation wouldn't have been until I was 10 years old. After years of abuse to my veins and copious amounts of IVs put into them, my veins just went, nope, no more, gave up on me, hid under my skin and wouldn't come back out. So it was actually midnight when I had one of my blowouts, they used to call them, with the IV line. And my doctor at the time, Dr. Messer, shout out to him, he kept me alive all those years. He was a pediatric doctor at the time. I remember him coming through the door at about midnight one night, putting the cannula in my arm and saying, she's getting a portacath tomorrow. And that was the end of it. They just booked me in, and that was my first operation, getting a portacath. So when my veins collapsed, they potentially put a fake vein into you. So that one, the first one was in my chest, and the vein goes to your heart, and it's just a permanent vein that doesn't fail unless it gets an infection.
Right. So I'm going to keep the screen on and I'm going to point at stuff. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So basically they stick something at the top of your skin. Now, is that exposed or is that
No, that was under my skin, and I had it from when I was 10 to when I was 17, and being a teenage girl, I absolutely hated it. It was the size of a stethoscope, and it stuck out of my chest because I was really skinny.
And it went, as we can see there, and they've done it purple, which is actually good rather than the red, which does indicate it's a vein. So directly into where the rest of the veins come in.
Into the heart, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's kind of all right. Look, were you aware of it?
Yep, I was asleep for that operation, but I was aware that I had that thing in me for 7 years. It actually was running really well. I made them take it out when I was 17, just for vanity reasons. And by that stage, they had a newer version of it. They upgraded their models, and they actually transferred it into my arm, which was a lot smaller on the inside of my arm. It was very tiny, which was better for my vanity.
Could you actually feel it in your heart?
I could, if you ran your fingers through, you could feel where the line went, but I only could feel to about there, and then I couldn't feel it because it would go into the chest wall then.
Right.
But I could feel it in my neck, and I hated touching it. It gave me the heebie-jeebs, so I didn't often do that.
You've had a full lung transplant,
Yep.
And tell me, when did talk of a transplant start?
Well, my mum was always very open with me, which helped me on the lead up to transplant, and she's always made it so it wasn't so scary for me when the time came. She's talked me through it my whole life, and I've seen a lot of CF patients do it before me. So at 17, my lungs, they got lung disease really badly. And from 17 to 25, I had numerous hospital stays. Eventually the antibiotics weren't working for me, and I wasn't putting on weight. My lung function was down to 24%. And they told me at 25, I wouldn't see 30 if I didn't have a lung transplant. Even the first year after transplant, they only give you 50% in the first year. A lot of people don't make it through that first year. And I'm now up to just over 7 years. So hopefully that keeps going up and up. But in the lead up, so from that 25 to 27 age, when I had the transplant, it's very tough. They don't just take everyone who needs a transplant. There's a lot they put into it. They don't want the organs to go to waste because it's obviously a pretty special gift to get somebody's organs. Excuse me. So I went through 2 years of test after test after test, and sat down in the room with the doctors to see if they would approve me. And the first round, they actually did not approve me. So I was too underweight at the time, and they said I wouldn't survive the operation being the weight I was. So they told me I needed to put on about 8 kilos. I was 44 kilos. So very, very underweight. And I had to get a feeding peg put in my belly to put through 2,500 calories a night through that. And I eventually put on 4 kilos, and then they accepted me. People realize that from when the person is declassed deceased who they are taking the organs from, it's the same doctor who goes from that person all the way through to the person who's receiving the organ. So they can work well over 24 hours just on the one set of organs.
So there it is. It's a Facebook blog, obviously, but one of your entries has this. Thanking a family who, faced with the ultimate pain of losing a loved one, make a decision to save someone else's loved one. How do you possibly thank these strangers, family you are forever connected to? You can't. The only thing you can do is make the most of every moment you have been blessed with. Do you know your donor?
No, I don't. We did get told off the grapevine there were 3 teenage boys who died in two different car accidents in the lead up to my transplant. But no, I don't have any confirmation.
Okay.
That's all I know.
So this is not the only health issue that you've had. We're discussing some of those.
After the transplant is when it all started, really, and that was thanks to mostly medication. So I was instantly diagnosed with diabetes after, which was steroid-related diabetes, which is a different kind. It's not type 1 or type 2. Then my kidneys failed, and I was diagnosed with my second genetic disease, which is, it has a really long name, so I'm just going to call it AHUS, but that stands for a massive big name that I can't even say. And it's something about the way the blood flows into your kidneys, clotting, something like that. And then my liver failed. So I have psoriasis, I think they call it, which is pretty much a drinker's liver when I don't drink. I mean, I did when I was a bit younger, but not to the excess where my liver would have failed. That's thanks to the medication as well. Then 2017, I got bowel cancer, and I had to get a chunk of my bowel cut out. I think that's it. Sometimes there's a lot. I forget sometimes, but I think that's it.
Every now and then I get this feeling that I'm just not supposed to be here. And look, I don't want to get too psychological here.
Well, you're beyond pain now, Sarah. You really are in our thoughts and our prayers, as are your family. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for all those who are liking and sharing. I think that's a magnificent story. I really hope that you do like, share, comment, because the algorithms, that's something that's out of my hands. But yeah, Godspeed, Sarah Sexton, and see you soon.